Hi, Amy. I thought I would just go over the study guide with you like this, like just do an email, just do a video because I saw a few of them and that it's like, I won't say they're incorrect, but they're not exactly what I'm looking for. So number one is histology. Number two, you have epithelial, muscle, connective, and nervous tissue. Those are correct. The structure and locations for simple squamous epithelium. Yes, protected regions where absorption takes place or diffusion takes place. But I'm going to show you something on our mastering page with your e-text that I think will help you find the wording that we're looking for, because the wording is kind of important. Just because you want the wording to be the same as it is on the exam, right? So let's see here. Slow. So we're going to the e-text and open my e-textbook, and then I'm going to go to search simple squamous epithelium. And I think this is going to help you in the future too. Okay, so we're going to content and it says summary outline. We could try that, but I'm thinking let's go to where it is in the reading. Okay, so simple squamous epithelium, we see a picture of it. It's a single layer of flat cells. So that's one thing. And then okay, so here we go. Simple squamous epithelium is found in protected regions where absorption takes place. Perfect, you got that, all right? But then we want the location, and I'm telling you there's a lot of different locations here. It says portions of the kidney tubules, but don't learn that part because it is not much of the kidney tubules. The kidney tubules tend to be cuboidal instead of squamous. So remember the gas exchange surfaces of the lungs, and down here it names them. They're called air sacs or alveoli. Linings of the pericardial, pleural, and peritoneal cavities. So they're found lining serous membranes because that's the name of all three serous membranes. And when it says blood vessels, we're talking about the blood capillaries are composed of simple squamous epithelial tissue. This is going to be your thinnest and your flattest type of tissue. Your thinnest tissue because it is designed for diffusion. And it also says performs absorption and secretion, but it's definitely for the absorption or the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide across the alveoli of the lungs. And then the next one was simple cuboidal. As you can see, you see what I'm doing. I'm not going to just go through and give you every one of the answers, but where I'm getting this from is section 4.3. And just for every tissue type that I named, make sure you go through all of these descriptions and then look at the locations and functions in the tables. So instead of me typing it out for you, I'm just telling you for that part, that's how you do it. And then let's look back. So that goes all the way down to that simple columnar, transitional, pseudostratified. And then it says, if you were studying epithelial tissue samples under a microscope, describe how you would know whether or not you were looking at simple columnar or pseudostratified columnar. And here's how. Let's go back to that e-text. Simple columnar is going to have a single horizontal row of nuclei. So they're very tall cells with usually microvilli on the surface. And then you see how the nuclei are like lined up in a horizontal row. But if you look at pseudostratified, they're all over the place. They're scattered all over the place. So you're looking at the nuclei of the cells. When you look under the microscope, this is what they look like. nuclei everywhere for the pseudostratified, and then a very nice clean row of nuclei for the simple columnar. All right, let's go back. Number 10, which epithelium is known to have microvilli on its apical surface, and what is the function of the microvilli? And you got this one right, simple columnar epithelium and its absorption of ingested food. Good. Which is known to have cilia on its apical surface, and that should be the pseudostratified. I don't see that in your answer. That should be the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium right here. Okay, and then which of the four main tissue types forms coverings and linings? Epithelial, specialized for contraction is muscle. Specialized for conducting impulses is neural tissue, and then cells surrounded by a matrix, this is number 15, is connective tissue. Number 16, where do you find a basement membrane and what is its function? It lies between the epidermis or outer layer of skin and the dermis. That's true, but a basement membrane underlies all epithelial tissue. Let's go back here. All epithelial tissue has a basement membrane underlying it. So let's see if I can find. Oh, it's in all of these pictures. So you have, like, even in stratified squamous epithelium, and this is what you were just describing, there's a basement membrane between the epidermis of the skin and the dermis of the skin. This is actually the surface of the tongue. But there's a basement membrane underneath all epithelial cells. It doesn't matter if they're stratified or if it's a single layer called simple. You always have a basement membrane here. It's not showing it in the simple squamous, but we can come up to this picture here. This would be the basement membrane of simple squamous epithelial tissue. This would be the basement membrane of stratified squamous. I think you probably get the idea. All right, and then we have the next page, which is starting with number 33. That's okay. Number 17, the structure and function of tight junctions. You got that. You didn't really say much about the structure, but you did say that they prevent the passage of water and solutes between cells. The structure and function of desmosomes. Okay, you're really not telling me the structure and function. You're telling me something about them, but not the structure and function. So let's find cell junctions would be the topic here. And gap junctions, intercalated disc. Here we go. That was section 4-2, which is the previous section. Okay, so going here. At a tight junction, the lipid layers of adjacent plasma membranes are tightly bound together by interlocking membrane proteins. So this is the structure part. Function is going to be prevent the passage of water and solutes between cells, which is what you said. So you did give the function, just not the structure. Just do the same thing with desmosomes. I don't want to go through and read all the answers, but just do the same thing with the desmosomes and the hemidesmosomes. This is gap junctions. These are all in section 4-2. Which type of cell junctions are found connecting cells that are lined with cilia? Okay, you got it right. Gap junctions. The structure and function for areolar connective tissue. Areolar tissue forms a layer that separates the skin from deeper structures. Okay, yes. So you didn't list me any structure of it or any locations for it. So let's see where that would be in here. Areolar connective tissue. We can probably just put areolar. And the way I'm knowing where to go is I'm skipping key terms because that's just telling you the definition. And I'm going to where it says content, and I'm trying not to go to anything that says summary or review or anything like that. I just want to go to this section in the text where I can read about it. So this is going to be section 4-5. This will be on our connective tissue. And this is actually tissue membranes. So I want to try another section. I want to go to the section that here we go. Section 4-4, connective tissue provides a protective structural framework. And this will talk about the different types of connective tissue. So the hard part is finding where to go, because when you search, you're given all these choices. But this is your areolar tissue. It gives you location and function right here. So within and deep to the dermis of the skin. So you have areolar tissue in the dermis, and then you also have areolar tissue in the hypodermis. The papillary layer of the dermis, which is the layer that's closest to the epidermis, the papillary layer is composed of areolar tissue. And it says functions, cushions organs, provides support but permits independent movement. And that's where you were talking about the layer between the skin and the muscle tissue below. So anyway, that's the connective tissue section 4-4. And that'll help you with areolar tissue. The structure and location for adipose, that was the figure right below. The structure and locations for reticular connective tissue. Same thing, you're going to find these in that same section 4-4. And then list the 3 main examples of loose, and you got that, areolar, adipose, and reticular. 2 main examples of dense, regular connective tissue are tendons and ligaments. And you've got them listed here. Ligaments connect bone to bone and tendons connect muscle to bone. Where in the body can you find dense, irregular? You can find it a lot of different places, but one is the reticular layer of the dermis. The reticular layer of the dermis. And then what are 2 types of fluid connective tissues? Blood and lymph. The 2 types of supportive are cartilage and bone. And the cells, fibers, and ground substance of cartilage tissue, it looks like you have that. Good job. That looks correct to me. Now we're going to go back. The cells, fibers, and ground substance of bone tissue. And you got some of the cells, but you need to have osteocytes, osteoblast, osteoclast. And then the ground substance is calcium phosphate and collagen fibers, okay? Where in the body would you find hyaline, cartilage, joint cavities, where a layer covers bone, and you also are going to find hyaline cartilage forming the epiphyseal plate in bones that are in long bones that are still growing. Where in the body would you find elastic, the ear, yep. Where in the body would you find fibrocartilage? The spinal disc between the vertebrae, you got that. The pubic symphysis between the pubic bone, you got it. The difference between cartilage and bone that has to do with blood supply. Cartilage is avascular. It doesn't have a blood supply. The 3 main types of muscle tissue you've got correct. Compare and contrast skeletal, smooth, and cardiac muscle tissue. So which ones have striations would be skeletal and cardiac. Single nuclei would be smooth and cardiac. Multiple nuclei would be skeletal. Branching is cardiac. Voluntary and is skeletal, and involuntary is smooth and cardiac. The 3 serous membranes are incorrect. They are pericardium, peritoneum, and the pleura. They line the heart, the lungs, and the abdominal cavity. Tissue that makes up serous membranes, you have partly correct. Areolar tissue, yes, but above the areolar tissue is simple squamous epithelium. And the cutaneous membrane is the skin. So you definitely have epithelial tissue, stratified squamous epithelial tissue forming the epidermis. And then you have areolar tissue for the dermis, the papillary layer, and dense irregular connective tissue for the reticular layer of the dermis. Mucous membranes, you're going to have to look that one up. And the basic structure is the only one I can't answer off the top of my head. You've got to look that one up. The tissue types for mucous membranes, that was section 4-5. Describe the basic structure of synovial membranes. That looks pretty good. Yeah.